I close with a trip a little farther down memory lane to another Super Bowl in Phoenix. That's the third Phoenix Super Bowl I've referenced on this show. That's weird. This one in Phoenix occurred almost 30 years ago. This was Super Bowl 30. This one was played at Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe. This one featured the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Dallas Cowboys of Troy and Emmett and Michael and Dion. Those Cowboys were favored by 13 and a half points over those Pittsburgh Steelers. I was there in Phoenix all week. I was writing a book on that team and that season that would become Hellbent. That was the third of my Cowboy trilogy of books. On that Tuesday, my sources told me all about how various Cowboys, starting with, of course, Michael Irvin, had taken over various Phoenix area strip clubs the night before. On Wednesday evening, I went to dinner with Barry Switzer's daughter, Kathy, who had become a friend of mine. She had her father's limo for the night. And somehow we wound up having dinner at a long table that featured Jerry Jones and his kids and their, at that point, spouses or girlfriends, boyfriends. It was just surreal. It felt like a victory celebration on Wednesday night. And on Thursday, I interviewed a whole bunch of Dallas Cowboys who came off as the most confident Super Bowl participants I had ever experienced. And this was my 20th straight Super Bowl that I was covering. 20th straight. Nothing like this before had I ever experienced. On that Sunday morning, I was a panelist on a show you might remember on ESPN, The Sports Reporters, with Dick Schaap and Mike Lupica. And that morning we had a special guest. You might remember this Indianapolis Colts quarterback named Jim Harbaugh. So in our opening segment, Jim Harbaugh tried to make a case that the Steelers' defense would make it tough on the Cowboys' offense. After all, Jim's Colts had just lost the AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh on a sort of Hail Mary of a pass to Aaron Bailey that probably should have been caught. By the way, that score was 20-16 Pittsburgh, which is the score I've picked for this Super Bowl. But on air that Sunday morning, I told Jim Harbaugh that this Cowboy offensive line is the greatest ever. And I asked Harbaugh face to face, he was sitting just to my right. I asked Harbaugh how the Steelers' defensive front was going to cope with these maulers when Jim Harbaugh just sort of stammered for a moment. I said to Jim Harbaugh on national TV, "You don't have a clue." I actually said that to Jim Harbaugh. You don't have a clue. Now, maybe I came off like a Cowboy homer, even though my books were viewed by many Cowboy fans as not exactly fansy kind of books. I'd like to think they were very objective. But I was actually on television that morning just echoing what I'd heard all week from players and coaches and from the owner. Were these Cowboys ever riding high that week in Phoenix? They won Super Bowl 30, 27-17, a game that never really felt even that close. And that night, I attended the Cowboys post-game party in this giant tent in their hotel parking lot. And Barry Switzer's motto was, "Win the game, then win the party." But this party, to tell you the truth, was pretty mellow and muted, kind of ho-hum, just like the game was. Inside that tent, it felt like it was difficult for anybody inside the tent to get too jubilant about winning a game the Cowboys were supposed to win by 2 touchdowns. it just felt like everyone in that giant tent fully expected to be celebrating the next year's Super Bowl and probably the next year's and the years after that. Neither Troy, nor Emmett, nor Michael, nor Dion had even reached age 30. I felt like I was in the middle of a dynasty. But now, as I look back on it, maybe I should have changed the spelling to D-I-E-nasty, dynasty, as in death of dynasty, D-I-E-nasty. If you told me that night at that Super Bowl 30 party that the Dallas Cowboys wouldn't even get back to an NFC championship game for the next 30 years, I would have said to you exactly what I said to Jim Harbaugh on TV. You don't have a clue. Now, with Shoddy as my coach, quote unquote, and with Clayton with a K as my quote unquote coordinator, and with Scary Jerry owning and operating at age 82 and counting, my Dallas Cowboys feel farther than ever from a Super Bowl. Hell-bent, indeed.